Now we're good?
How come you don't play Sunnah? Sunnah al-Maghrib.
The Sheikh said we should just get started, so I just thought we'd get started.
Praying, I haven't prayed. I'm just saying it's up to you if you pray Maghrib Sunnah or not.
No, inshallah. أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. How's everybody doing? Alhamdulillah. So we're continuing with Surah Al-Falaq, which is the first of the two Mu'awwadhatain. The surahs called Mu'awwadhatain mean the two surahs with which you take refuge in Allah. That's what it means, Mu'awwadhatain. So it has a connection with Surah Ikhlas, which is before it, and a connection with Surah Nas. With Surah Nas, I already went into a lot of detail before. I'm not going to do that again. As to the connection between those two surahs, it's very beautiful, very powerful, the connection between Falaq and Nas. In terms of Surah Ikhlas, there's also a connection, which is Qul Huwallahu Ahad, that's Surah Ikhlas, right? So you have this surah, which, as you're going through the entirety of the Quran, you come to the end, and then you have these three surahs. Surah Ikhlas is talking about the oneness of Allah. Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad. We'll talk about that next week, inshallah. But the point is that in that surah, it's like the culmination of saying, okay, after we've mentioned everything, just remember the most important thing, that Allah is one. And then after that, you have these two surahs that are two protections. What do I mean by two protections? Two protections from the outside world and from the inside world. Surah Al-Falaq talks about all the outside evils that might harm you, and Surah An-Nas talks about your inner evils that also might harm you. You see? So basically, I want you to think about Tawheed as the most important thing. And so after the entirety of the Quran, Allah brings it back and says, don't forget the most important thing, Tawheed, the oneness of God. And then after that, I'm going to give you two soldiers that are going to stand guard and protect it. And those two soldiers are going to protect you, one of them from outside evils, which is Surah Falaq, we're going to talk about tonight. And the other one is Surah Nas, inner evils, as in your own whispers and the evil suggestions you get, and that you need to have protection from that as well. So when you look at it from that perspective, and also you have to remember that this is to protect your concept of Tawheed, your concept of oneness of Allah as well. Because if you get afflicted by lots of outside evils, what happens? You start to lose faith, you start to lose hope. And if you get afflicted by lots of inner evils, things whispering to you, what happens to you? You start to have doubts as well, you start to lose faith. So that's why the two soldiers are there, if you will, the two guards protecting that Tawheed. So that's the way that the Quran finishes, which is just beautiful. And so this, you find also a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min sharri ma amiltu wa min sharri ma lam a'mal. That, oh Allah, I take refuge in you from the evil of what I did and what I didn't do. The evil of what I did, what's that referring to? Surah An-Nas, the inner evils. The evils of what I didn't do, Surah Al-Falaq, the outside evils that might affect you. Okay, let's begin. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Qul means say. Say this. A'udhu, I take refuge, in the Rabb, the Lord of Al-Falaq. So there's a bunch of things to unpack here. The number one is the word Qul, the fact that Allah is commanding His messenger to say these words means that this is a special dua that has been made from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given as a gift to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his most beloved creation. So if that is the case, then imagine the power that it will have in our lives if we also use this dua. It has been constructed and put together in such a powerful way that it was designed specifically for the most beloved of Allah's creation. So then, how much can we benefit from it? That's the first thing that we need to pay attention to. The second thing that I want to mention is falaq. Falaqa means to tear open. Like, you know, when you rip open a pillow and all the fluff comes flying out, that's falaqa. That's what it means. So Rabbil Falaq means the Lord of ripping open. But it sounds weird. What do you mean by that? So there's a bunch of different ayat of Quran that use this word falaq. Allah mentions in the Quran, Allah mentions, Inna Allah faliqul hab, that Allah is the splitter open of the hab, which is a grain. So just the same way you see, in the earth, a grain is planted, and then you see it sprout and splits the earth and then pops out. That's one interpretation or one understanding of what a falaq is. It's when something comes new. It's when something is produced. Okay? Also, Allah says, فَالِقُ الْإِصْبَاحِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions right in the next ayah in Surah 6, verse 96. Allah mentions, فَالِقُ الْإِصْبَاحِ, the one who splits open the morning. And what that implies is that darkness has overspread at night. And then in the morning, what happens? Those first rays of light, they split through and they pierce the darkness. And this is the most popular interpretation. When you say قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, the most common translation is, say, I take refuge in the Lord of the daybreak. Because it's the common interpretation is that the splitting of this light piercing through the darkness. Okay? But there is other things that you can interpret, like for example, the splitting of a grain coming through the earth, or perhaps the chick as it breaks through the egg, or perhaps the gushing of water as it breaks through the rocks. So it breaks through and it gushes forth. Or even the splitting of the universe. The universe was once all together, as Allah mentions in Surah 21, verse 30. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, and then we split it asunder. And nowadays, modern technology calls that the Big Bang, right? And so the universe split open, and exploded and became this entire creation. So what I'm trying to say is that anything that comes new, this is Allah is mentioning that I am the Lord of that. Anything that happens new. And what's fascinating about that is in Surah Ikhlas, we learned that what? Allah is As-Samad. He is the source of everything. Everything comes from Him, but He doesn't come from anyone. We're going to learn about that next week, inshallah. So by saying Rabb al-Falaq, that He is the Lord of everything that splits open and shows up new, what He's saying is everything that exists has a beginning point. Every creation has a point where it was created, except me. Because I'm not creation, I'm the creator. And there was no point where I came new. And so we're going to talk about that inshallah next week in more detail, about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who, there was never a point where He showed up new on the scene, or He was created, or He began to exist. No, Allah has always eternally existed, and every creation, that is something that comes new, and Allah uses the term falaq for it. And so He is Rabbul Falaq, anything that comes new. That's in terms of its relationship with what is before it in Surah Ikhlas. In terms of its relationship with what comes after it, you find that Allah mentions 4 different types of evil. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ, and then we're gonna see all the different types of evil in a moment, inshallah. What's interesting about this is that we are all worried about different evils coming into our life, right? That's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of what if a disease gets spread? What if some political movement, they all start attacking me? What if war breaks out? What if this? You're always worried about what's happening in the future. Allah is saying when it comes to new things popping onto the scene, new things being produced and coming into your life new, I'm the Lord of that. I'm the Lord of everything that shows up new. And so we need to remember that fact. And we also have to keep in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can give you a new day, can bring you out. That's exactly what dawn is, right? It's a new day. And so you have to look at that as a believer and say to yourself, what if my life is feeling very dark right now? What if in my life there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of hopelessness, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of pain. I feel like I'm in the darkest of the darkest nights. Just remember this, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could take the whole world and make it bright in such a short amount of time, in just a moment, Allah can bring so much light to the whole world, then what about just for me? I'm just one person. Allah brings light to everybody. Allah changes a full dark night for everybody is experiencing darkness. And if that darkness were to remain, they would be in such difficulty and have so many problems. And yet Allah can bring hope and bring light and bring positivity and bring clarity and guidance to the whole world. So for me, it should be nothing. So just in seeing the daybreak, you should remember Allah is so powerful that He can bring so much light out of darkness. So of course He can bring light in my dark situation, in my dark circumstances. That is a very important thing to remember. So we see different interpretations. The Lord of the daybreak, that's one interpretation. The Lord of all creation, because creations are things that show up new. And that's what falaq implies. Or even resurrection, that you will die, you will be buried in the earth, and then what will happen? You will come and you will sprout out and you will come out of the earth, and that is falaqa. That is coming out and being produced new. And so Allah is saying, I'm the Lord of that as well. I'm the Lord of this resurrection. So many different ways to interpret it, but the most popular is when it comes to this issue of light and the daybreak. Now here's another interesting point. We often find that the Muslim Ummah is full of people complaining about lots of problems. Don't you find that? Don't you find the Muslim Ummah, you find that people are always saying, this is a problem, that's a problem, why is this happening, why is that happening, why is there so many problems? You can give an analogy and say that really what we're like is a bunch of people in a dark, dark room, pitch black room, and everybody's bumping into each other, stepping on each other's feet. Somebody's pulling my hair, somebody's poking me, get off of me. And everybody's yelling. Now, does it help to just yell and curse the dark and swear at the dark and get mad at the dark? Does that help? Yes or no? No. All that yelling, all that screaming, instead of all that, what do you need to do? What does one single person, what do they have to do? Switch on the light, right? That's it. All you got to do is just flip the switch. And so the idea here is what? That we are in a ummah, we are in a Muslim, the state of the Muslim nation, the state of the Muslim world right now, is such that everybody's good at complaining and pointing out all the problems. But pointing out problems doesn't take it away. You can't physically grab darkness and remove it. It doesn't work. Darkness doesn't go away that way. You can't yell at darkness and make it go away. You can't pick it up and move it. The only way you can affect it is what? By introducing the light. So we need to stop complaining and ask ourselves, how can I do something that will actually benefit? Instead of whining about it, instead of saying this is a problem and that's a problem. You know, it doesn't take a genius to walk into any masjid or walk into any organization and point out, this isn't clean and this should be nicer. Somebody should paint that and somebody should fix that. Anybody can do that. And it's very frustrating when people just show up and start pointing out all the different problems and they think that they're solving something. Look, man, we know that there are problems. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to be another whining voice? Because we got plenty of those. Don't worry about it. You're not a new one. You haven't solved anything. What we need are people to actually say, you know what? The wall needs painting. When are we going to start painting? I'm the first one that's going to volunteer. You get my point? So there's only one way to remove darkness. You have to turn on the light. There is no complaining and yelling at dark. It doesn't make a difference. So that's a very important lesson that we can learn from this surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's one point. The next thing I want to mention, okay, so next is, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Now, min sharri ma khalaq. This is very interesting. Min means from. Shar means evil. From the evil, min sharri ma means whatever khalaqa, whatever He created. As in whatever Allah created. This is very fascinating language. Why do I say that? Because Allah didn't say from the evil that He created. Allah doesn't attribute evil to Himself. Al-khayru biyadayk wa sharru laysa ilayk. That goodness is in your hands and evil is not attributed to you. This is the attitude of the believer. And this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That we do not attribute evil to Allah. And now this brings up a big theological question that I'm sure many of you have heard before. Many young people ask this question. It's a common question. If God is all good and God is all powerful, then why is there evil in the world? If there's evil in the world, then maybe He has power, but He's clearly not all good because He obviously allows that evil to exist. Or maybe He is all good, but He's just not strong enough to remove all the evil. So He must be all good, but not all powerful. How can it logically be the case that He is simultaneously all good and all powerful? And the Muslim does say, absolutely Allah is all good. And absolutely Allah is all powerful. And the way that we reconcile it is that we recognize that logically, there can only be certain kinds of good if evil is allowed for. What do I mean by this? Let's make it very straightforward. Allah has lots of angels, more angels than we could even count. And they are perfect. They only worship Allah the way He wants. They only do exactly what they're supposed to do. They are perfect. But the question is, are they good? Well, I guess you could say they are good in a certain way, in the sense that they only do good things, but at the same time, they don't have a choice. So how good really is that? It does not even come close to comparing to the human being who was given free will. And that's the creation of Allah. Allah created free will. And free will in and of itself is a good thing. But the very nature of it is that it is free, which means that you can choose good and you can choose evil. And so as a result of it, evil will be produced, but it doesn't compare to the goodness that comes from it, because the one who chooses to do good, even though he has the option to do evil, he has reached and attained a level of goodness that is incomparable. And that is why Adam alayhi salam, when Allah created Adam, what did he do? He told all the angels, you bow down to him. Because he's reached a level of goodness that you can never compare to. His level of goodness is a goodness that he has chosen. And his followers that are believers will go to paradise because they have chosen to do good, even though they were faced with temptations of evil. And you guys can never compete with that. And so and yes, as a result of that amazing good, There will be some people that are evil. There will be some people that choose the wrong path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accounts for that by Judgment Day and makes sure that whatever evil they did, they pay for it, they get punished. And whatever evil they did to good people, those people will be rewarded for it. They'll be rewarded for it in paradise. So the account will be balanced. So Allah will take care of that evil. But He still allows it because obviously there would be no free will if I tell somebody, okay, you have free will. Every time you do good, I let you. Every time you do evil, I force you to change. Well, then that's not free will. If every time the person does the right path, you allow it, and every time they do the evil path, you physically stop them, then clearly that's not free will. So does everybody understand this? How you answer this problem? It's called theodicy, the problem of evil. It's a very popular thing. This is the best way that the believer should answer it. And all of this is summarized in what? Min sharri ma khalaq. It is, I take refuge in you from the evil, not of the evil that you created. No, Allah doesn't say that. From the evil of that which you created. Allah created free will, and from that comes evil. And I take refuge in you, O Allah, from that evil. But I'm not attributing it to you directly. I hope that that's clear. I know I'm exhausting this point, but I'm doing so because a lot of young people have problems with this. And it's important that we understand these ayat and see how they solve theological issues. Okay, hopefully that's clear. And so yeah, just to put a fine point on it, that nothing that Allah creates is pure evil itself. Nothing is pure evil that Allah creates. Allah creates things that have the potential of evil because of a greater good. That is the main point that I wanted to address. Okay, next. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبْ. And from the evil of the ghasiq. What is ghasiq? Ghasiq is darkness. That's one interpretation. That's the most popular interpretation. Min ghasiqin, I take refuge in you, O Allah, from the evil of the darkness when it overspreads. Now this is very interesting. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just said, Oh Allah, why is it that we just said, Oh Allah, I take refuge in you, the Lord of the daybreak, from all evil, and then we specify 3 more types of evil? If we just said, Min sharri, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقْ, from all evils, that's all encompassing. That covers everything. Everything I know, everything I don't know, everything. So why do I have to continue? Now Allah specifies 3 more because Allah is now zooming in on our vulnerabilities, where we need to pay special attention. Okay? So now we're going to see 3 specific evils, and what's interesting is that they have a connection. One is of a time and place, one is evil of a certain type of people, and the third one is a type of attitude or feeling. So you say, Oh Allah, I take refuge in you from all evil, and specifically places and times, people, and attitudes. So these are the 3 things that are specified in these next 3 ayat, inshallah, as we will see. Why the nighttime when it overspreads? Ghasiq, it means the darkness. إِذَا وَقَبَ, when it overspreads. Why? Why specify the darkness when it overspreads? Because of how much evil comes out at night. If you avoid being out in evil places at nighttime, that's when most of the problems take place. That's when a certain type of people come out, certain type of activities come out. That's when the ER becomes full, right? The emergency room becomes very full. Why? Because lots of people do a lot of stupid things at that time. And there's, the famous expression, nothing good happens after, midnight, right? And that's pretty much true. The young kid that says, oh, I'm going to stay up really late and study, he's working at like 10% capacity. If he goes to sleep and wakes up early, his studying will be so much better. But if he spends like 5 hours from midnight to 5 a.m. trying to study, he's probably going to, study 1 page. Because the quality of your work is bad. And then in terms of the chatting and wasting time and partying and everything else, lots of evils take place at night. Nighttime is a covering. We should sleep during that time and take advantage of the daytime. So that's one point. So what comes out at night? Dangerous people come out at night. Jinn are more active at night. Dangerous animals and bugs that are dangerous and poisonous and so forth. And also just the fact that there's lack of visibility. You make more mistakes and you can get hurt more easily. So that's very, very straightforward. Then we should also know that the Prophet ﷺ in one hadith pointed to the moon and said, Oh Aisha, that is ghasiq. That is al-ghasiq. The moon itself is what is referred to as a ghasiq. So then you say, well, does this mean when the moon overspreads? No, the moon represents nighttime. And one reason that you could understand that the moon, and subhanAllah, this is one of those scientific miracles of the Quran, that it just so happens that the moon has a very particular effect on human beings. It has an effect on the gravitational pull on the world, and therefore it has an effect on the way that the tides come in and out. And we are made up of 70% water, and so it has an effect on our bodies as well. And that's where the word lunatic comes from, by the way. Because the word lune in French means the moon. And the word lunatic, it comes from the fact that when it's a full moon, people do act differently. The moon has a certain effect on their bodies that they act differently. And that's where the whole myth and legend of the werewolf comes from. So when you guys see movies about werewolves, that it's a full moon and people start acting crazy, that comes from an actual scientific and historical fact. That people would notice that why is that people act very, very bizarre on these particular nights? They act a little bit more crazy. And that has a physiological explanation based on the moon. And that's also why the Prophet ﷺ taught us that we should fast during the 3 white nights of the month. The 3 white nights are the 3 nights of the full moon. That's when we're supposed to fast. So all this is tied together. So we're saying, oh Allah, protect me from these nighttime and protect me specifically from acting crazy during these specific nights. We're supposed to fast on those nights. All this is very much tied together. So subhanAllah, there's a lot of interesting facts tied into that. The Prophet ﷺ says, when night falls, this is in Sahih Bukhari, when night falls, stop your children and bring them into the house. If your kids are out late at night, that's a problem. And the Prophet ﷺ said also that stop your kids from going out and also make sure that you cover your food, that you tie the water skins, that you turn out the candles, because people would see based on candles, right? And then they'd fall asleep, and then unfortunately their houses would burn down. It's a very dangerous thing. So blow out the lights. Make sure you cover your food so that insects don't lay their eggs in it and so forth. And for the sake of diseases, we should follow this advice as well. Cover our food and also close up any sort of water source like bottles and so forth. What else? So this theme of light versus dark is very beautiful because it can represent truth versus falsehood, knowledge versus ignorance, ease versus hardship, liveliness versus death, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of beautiful imagery here about all that being pushed away by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, splitting open the darkness with the rays of light. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. Next ayah. And from the evil of the naffathat. This is interpreted in a few ways. What does nafatha mean? Does anybody know what nafatha means? Shaykhuna? No, not nafs. Nafatha. Very close though, very close. Nafatha means to nafakha, to blow. To blow. It means to blow in such a way where there's a little bit of spittle that comes out. Like this. To blow like this. What is it referring to? A few different interpretations. The most common, the most popular one is that this is referring to people that engage in sorcery or magic or witchcraft or any sort of evil magic. And so this is referring to people that would, and naffathati, those who blow into knots. Uqad. Uqad means knots. It's uqda is one knot, uqad are knots. So what would they do? They would recite certain incantations and then tie the knot. And then recite more incantations and then tie knots. And this is the way they would do like black magic or voodoo or etc. So first interpretation is saying, oh Allah, protect me from the evils of any sort of black magic that might take place. The second interpretation is that those who blow is referring to people who blow into, the word blow here represents gossiping, talking, and spreading rumors and so forth. Fil uqad, in knots, knots here representing the ties of family or the ties of friendship. So what is this referring to? Oh Allah, protect me from those people who like to talk about my family members, my friendship, my different friendships, and for what purpose? To cause problems, to incite rumors, to ruin relationships. Oh, she said this and he said that, and did you hear this? And oh, I can't believe that, and I saw them talking together and I think something's going on, blah, 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 blah. For what purpose? Because they just they have this evil inside of them and they want to destroy relationships. They enjoy gossip. So you're saying, oh Allah, protect me from this type of behavior, these type of evil people. A third interpretation, and the reason why it's feminine, nafathat, feminine, some people say it's because it's referring to nufus, and nafs is feminine, and so it can refer to both men and women. Other interpretations say no, it's referring specifically to women, because women like to gossip and women like to chit-chat and spread rumors and basically ruin people's lives because of that. They like to destroy people by just spreading a lot of rumors and hurting people that way. Another interpretation is that it's because the women who like to untie the knot of a man's resolve. So let's say a man is like, I'm going to memorize the Quran, or I'm going to give charity, or I'm going to go to the masjid, and I'm going to do this, and then the wife Or the girlfriend is like, you don't have to do that. Just come spend some time with me. Just relax. You don't have to be so serious. You don't want to give charity. We need the money. And you're like, no, we don't. We're doing well. No, don't spend this and that. And they start to untie this man's resolve. So these are 3 different interpretations of naffathati fil uqad, and all of them have their benefit that we need to ask ourselves and say, Ya Allah, protect me from evil people that want to do black magic, protect me from people who want to spread rumors and ruin my relationships, and oh Allah, protect me from family members that might try to weaken my resolve. These are the different things that you're asking Allah to protect you from. Nafathati fil uqad. By the way, important point, when it comes to any sort of astrology, when it comes to any sort of like horoscopes, all these things are completely haram, even to look into for the sake of curiosity. So if you see like, oh, there's a palm reader and it just costs $5, and you say to your buddies, hey, let's go check it out, see what my future is just for fun. That's haram. That's completely unallowed in Islam. That's completely prohibited and wrong in Islam, even just for fun. And this applies, and I'm sorry to say this might make your life a little bit difficult. This does even apply to reading your horoscope in the newspaper. Some people say, oh, I'm a Gemini or I'm a Cancer. Let me see what my horoscope is. Don't even read that. Throw it away. It's garbage. Not even just for fun. I'll take it one step further. Even your fortune cookie. And I know people are like, I love, going to the Chinese restaurant, eat some good food, and then at the end of it, I like the fortune cookie. And it's fun to just say like, oh, what do they say my fortune is, Obviously you don't believe in it, it's just a joke. Don't even read it. Crack it open, throw away the paper, eat the cookie. The cookie's just fine, inshallah. But don't read the fortune cookie, because even as a joke, we should completely have nothing to do with this stuff. And we should remember that when it comes to people who sell amulets or do fortune telling or astrology, all this is under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that any sort of black magic they do, whether they have the ability to contact jinn, whether they have the ability to have some sort of negative effect, number one, they're going to have the most negative effect on themselves. And number two, whatever they do is nothing in comparison to the power of remembering Allah, being a faithful person, asking Allah for His protection. It has nothing, it can't even compare. So we should not even be worried about these things. We should only be worried about our relationship with Allah, number one. Okay. وَمِن شَرِّ, final ayah, inshallah. Everybody still with me? I'm trying to get through this stuff quickly, inshallah. I'm trying to get through. So, how much time did I take so far? I'm doing all right? Okay, last ayah. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. What does hasad mean? Envy or jealousy, right? Envy or jealousy. وَمِن شَرِّ, and from the evil of hasid, the envier, إِذَا, when he hasada, when he envies. Okay, lots of points to take from this, inshallah, and then we open up for Q&A. So I hope you guys' minds are thinking so we can have a very lively Q&A, inshallah. So, the first point that you should take from this, which is so beautiful, is that the believer should be somebody who has self-esteem. So much self-esteem, in fact, that he recognizes his own blessings, appreciates the good going on in his life, and feels like there's a lot for everybody to envy in me. Now, you shouldn't go around wanting people to envy you. That's another problem. Walking around saying, hey, look at me, look at me. That's its own evil. But you should have self-confidence, and you should recognize your own blessings. Alhamdulillah, I'm healthy. Alhamdulillah, I have a family. Alhamdulillah, I have an education. Alhamdulillah, I have my abilities. I can go out, I can do things. I'm a smart person, I'm a capable person, I'm a healthy person. You should look at all your blessings and say there's a lot to be jealous of. And so every time you say, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, you're recognizing that, oh Allah, there's tons of things, there's so many blessings that people could be jealous of me for. And so you're recognizing your own blessings and you're seeing yourself as a person with lots of dignity, lots of self-respect, and as basically a big winner. Right? You're a big winner. That's why people are jealous, because you have so much going on in your life. That's how you should see yourself, with a lot of dignity and a lot of self-respect. That's the first point. In fact, there's a beautiful narration where the Prophet ﷺ, it's in the Shama'il Muhammadiyah of the Prophet ﷺ. Beautiful hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ came behind a man, he was a Bedouin. And he would come he would come to Medina only every once in a while. His name was Zahir. And so Zahir came to Medina one time, and the Prophet ﷺ really liked this guy. But he had a physical defect. He had some sort of physical defect that made him unattractive. And so the Prophet ﷺ still showed love to this man, because he knew he was a believer and he had a good heart. And so the Prophet ﷺ came behind him and gave him a big hug. Or you give him a quick tap. So the Prophet ﷺ came behind him and gave him a hug. And the man was like, who got me? Who got me? Let go of me. And so then the Prophet ﷺ, he realized it was the Prophet ﷺ, and then he was happy that the Prophet ﷺ was hugging him. And then he, as a joke, the Prophet ﷺ said, who wants to buy this slave? Who wants to buy this slave? As a joke, like, oh, I got a slave, who's going to buy? I'm going to sell him, I'm going to make some money off him. So it's just a joke. But then the man says, Zahir, he says, Ya Rasulullah, you're not going to find much of a price for me. I'm very defective. And so he was kind of down on himself, saying, nobody's going to buy me. And the Prophet ﷺ saw that he had this sort of sense of self-loathing or this sense of didn't have much self-worth. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, no, in the eyes of Allah, you're very valuable. You're precious. You are ghal. The word ghal means that you're very precious and you're very expensive. And so the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that we should have an attitude that never look at yourself like I'm worthless, nobody likes me, nobody cares about me. Always look at yourself and always try to make other people feel like you're precious and you're valuable. And so this is one thing that we should remember from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Next thing is that Allah says, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ, from the person who is jealous, إِذَا حَسَدَ, when he actually acts out his envy. The important lesson here is that at all times, human beings might feel some sense of envy. It happens. It's human nature. You see something and you feel that sense of envy. But as a believer, immediately you want to squash it. You want to say, and the best way to squash it is by making dua for that person. You see that a person has a nice car and you think, man, why don't I have that car? Immediately say, this is from shaitan. Oh Allah, give him 10 more cars like that. Oh Allah, bless him even more. Make him even more rich. Give him a mansion. Give him so many beautiful children. Make him the most happy person. Make dua for that person, that he has more and more and more. That's the best way to squash that evil feeling in your heart. Why shouldn't you make dua for the person? If that person's happy, does that take away from your happiness? If that's who you are, if you think that someone else's happiness removes from your happiness, that is a big disease and a sickness in your own heart. You need to check yourself. You should never at any point think to yourself, oh, they're happy, therefore I'm diminished by that. That's a sickness. So squash it and say, oh Allah, I want them to have 10 mansions. I want them to have 10 sports cars. I want them to have even more. Why? Because I want that for myself as well. I want all of us to be happy. You should want good for people. That's the first point, or the second point. Or perhaps third at this point, I don't know. So, about إِذَا حَسَدْ. It's also interesting that, this is a technical Arabic grammar point, but it's just interesting for those who are interested. غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ is general, it's not specific. And حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدْ is not specific. But النَّفَّاثَات has alif lam on it, which makes it ma'rifah, not nakira. I know this is technical language. The point here, or the big summary of this, is that darkness is sometimes evil, but it's not always evil. I mean, sometimes good things happen at night. And jealousy, you can have a good type of jealousy. In fact, in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ says, it's good to have the type of jealousy where you see somebody who knows a lot of Quran and you want to be like them, without wanting them to be diminished. And it's good to see somebody who has lots of wealth and they're very charitable and you want that wealth too, as long as you don't want them to be diminished. That's a good type of hasad. So jealousy can have some sort of good to it, and darkness can have some sort of good to it, but when it comes to magic, there's never any good in it. So that's why it's an-nafathat, it's more specific. Anyway, that's a grammar issue that those who appreciate the way the Arabic has been constructed, one sentence is different than the other two, and you say, why is that? And you realize why. Because magic, always evil. No exceptions. Hence, why you don't even play games with it. That's what I talked about in the other ayah. Okay. Then, next up. It's interesting that these are connected. Why? Because jealousy is like the seed. And from that jealousy, you develop this desire to talk evil about people and to gossip about people or to even do black magic towards people. And so it's connected with the ayah before it. And where do you find people like this to talk to? People that like to hang out at night. A bad type of crowd. The type of people that come out at night, these are the type of people that are involved in sorcery, black magic. These are the type of people that like to gossip and create rumors and create problems for people. So you see how the three are all connected together. It's very interesting. Next. We should remember that when it comes to jealousy, that was the first evil that we know about in history. What is our human history? Adam alayhi salam was created, and what did Iblis feel towards him? Jealousy. He was jealous towards Adam. So that was the first sin that we're aware of in the whole of creation, even in the heavens. And then Adam alayhi salam, long story short, arrives on earth, and then what is the first evil, what is the first sin that is done on earth that we're aware of? Cain and Abel. Thank you very much. Habil wa Qabil. Cain and Abel, Jazakumullah khairan, may Allah reward you. Cain and Abel, first evil on earth, jealousy. First evil in the heavens, jealousy. Jealousy is a really nasty thing. It's a really nasty business. So it's that first evil, it's that first seed that gets planted and that we need to be very, very careful of and very cautious of. Furthermore, there's a nice poem or a little couplet by Ibn al-Mu'taz. He says, "Isbir ala hasid al-hasud fa-inna sabraka qatiluh فَالنَّارُ تَأْكُلُ بَعْضَهَا إِن لَمْ تَجِدْ مَا تَأْكُلُهُ." So it's a nice little rhyming poem. And what it means is, be patient on the jealous person or the jealous person's jealousy. Be patient with that. Why? Because indeed your patience is killing him. That's pretty funny. The more you're patient and the more you're successful and the more you just keep getting better and better at life, the more you are just ruining him. So don't fight with him. You know, a dog barks at you, you don't bark back, right? This guy's jealous at you. You don't have to stoop to his level and start fighting with him and be jealous back. No, you know what? Just keep on being successful. Just keep on winning at life. Why? Because your success is killing him. And then in the next line he says, فَالنَّارُ تَأْكُلُ بَعْضَهَا إِن لَمْ تَجِدْ مَا تَأْكُلُ. Because fire eats itself when it doesn't find anything else to eat. And what that means is that we've all seen when a fire is burning, it burns and burns and burns until it burns itself out. And you have to throw some new logs on the fire or else it's going to die, right? So that's the nature of fire. So instead of feeding this guy more logs by fighting with him, getting mad at him, and then wasting your mind and your energy on this person and then actually not being successful, ignore him. Give him no attention. Don't pay him any mind whatsoever. You just keep on hustling, you keep on succeeding, you keep on doing well at life. Why? Because then you're not giving him any more logs for the fire. And then the fire just keeps burning until it burns itself out. Let the guy kill himself in his jealousy. Good for you, right? So the best response to jealousy is more success. So we should always remember that point. Furthermore, Ibn Uthaymeen has a very beautiful point. He says, a small warning sign that you might have hasad in your heart is that when good of others is mentioned, you dislike it, even though you know good of a person, you don't mention it. So somebody's like, oh, you know that brother, he's a really good person. And you think, yeah, he's a good person. I can mention this, but you're like, I don't want to mention it. And I don't like when people are praising him. This is the first initial signs of hasad in your heart, so beware of this. Another point is that jealousy is very dangerous because you are actually questioning Allah. Because what you're saying is, why does that guy have money and I don't? Why is that guy married and I'm not? Why does he have kids and I don't? Who are you really questioning? You're questioning Allah's qadar. You're questioning Allah's destiny. And that in of itself is a terrible thing to do. So don't question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start creating problems in your own faith. Allah gave that guy wealth, good for him. Allah has written for me certain wealth, alhamdulillah on that. If I need to work harder, I'll work harder. I don't need to go looking around at other people. I compare myself to me. I compare myself to myself yesterday. I don't go comparing myself to other people. If every day I can be a better person and beat who I was yesterday, then today was a good day. If not, then today was a failure. Just keep on improving and working on yourself and only compare yourself with yourself, not with others. That's the important way to dispel of any sort of jealousy. The Prophet ﷺ said that jealousy eats away good deeds just as fire eats away firewood. That's an important hadith to remember. There is a beautiful quote from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He says, never be hostile towards Allah's blessings. The people are like, who would be hostile towards Allah's blessings? He's like, well, every time you're jealous of somebody else's stuff, aren't you being hostile towards Allah's blessings? Oh yeah, technically I am. So that's a very good warning. There's a beautiful quote from Muhammad ibn Sirin, rahimahullah. I love this quote. It's so smart. Look at the psychology. And it's beautiful in its simplicity. Look how simple this idea is. He goes, I'm never jealous of people's dunya. How could I ever be jealous of a person's dunya? How could I ever be jealous of what a person has in this world? Think about it. If this person's going to Jannah, why would I be jealous of the things he has in this world when Jannah is so much greater? And the other option is this. If he's a person who's going to hellfire, why would I be jealous of a person who's going to hellfire? You guys get it? Isn't that beautiful? That you don't look at the person's dunya, you look at their akhirah. And you say, A, they're going to Jannah, so if I'm going to be jealous of what Allah has in store in Jannah and work harder for Jannah. And if they're going to hellfire, why on earth would I be jealous of a person who's going to be burning in hell? Doesn't make sense. So Muhammad ibn Sirin's attitude, I think, is the most beautiful. Another quote, people who are afraid of jealousy because of evil eye. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah says a beautiful quote. He says, You being afflicted with the evil eye doesn't mean that you are so beautiful. It doesn't mean that you are so wealthy. It just means that you have fallen short in your remembrance of Allah. That's such an important, I love that quote, because it's so true. Every time somebody gets sick, who gave me evil eye? Their kid has an accident, their kid busts his arm or his leg, who gave my kid evil eye? They get into a car accident, who gave my car evil eye? And they're always thinking, who was jealous? That person, I saw he was looking at me and he was jealous of me. I knew it, he was looking at me like that. And then you hate that person, right? And a lot of people, they have this attitude. They feel like they're people's evil eye. Look, if evil eye happens to you, remember that it was your failure to protect it from evil eye by praising Allah, by asking Allah for protection. نعوذ بكلمات الله التامة من كل شيطان وهامة وكل عين لامة. There's a beautiful dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make, and he said, I make this dua for Hassan and Hussein, and Ibrahim ﷺ used to make this dua for Ismail and Ishaq. Subhanallah, what a beautiful dua and what a beautiful tradition that we can follow from the sunnah of Ibrahim all the way to the Prophet ﷺ and all the way to us. نعوذ بكلمات الله التامة. I seek refuge in Allah from His perfect word. من كل شيطان وهامة, from every evil and from every poisonous and dangerous thing. Every sort of shaitan and evil thing. ومن كل عين لامة, and from every evil eye that's looking at us. So you make dua. You ask Allah, protect me from this thing. You say, أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما حلق, and من شر حاسد إذا حسد. You ask Allah, رب الفلق, to protect you from every sort of evil eye, from every sort of hasad. And inshallah, you'll be safe. So don't think it's falling short in other people. It's falling short in yourself. You should have been using this surah. You know this surah. Recite this surah. Protects you from hasad, inshallah. Final point is, look at this. Look at this is just amazing. Look at the way Quran is put together. Okay? You make in Surah Ikhlas, you mention Tawheed. Oh Allah, you mention that Allah is one. We're going to talk about it next week, inshallah. We go into detail about how Allah is one, and that's the most important thing. Then, like I said, the two soldiers, right, that protect you. Now look at the way these two soldiers protect you. They go from the biggest to the smallest. First, min sharri ma khalaq, from all evils, no matter how big. All evil, the biggest, broadest evil. Then, more specific, the evil that happens at night, that's shrouded in vagueness, the vagueness of darkness. Then, even more specific, nighttime, when people are talking, doing evil magic, when spreading rumors, even more shrouded in mystery because of private conversations, right? Because of private things they do behind closed doors of evil types of magic, that's even more vague. Why? Because magic is something we don't fully understand. We don't understand the dark arts and how to connect with jinn. So this is something that's even more vague and even more ambiguous than the darkness of nighttime. So you go from the biggest evil, something a little bit vague and dark, something even more vague and even more dark, and then hasad is the evil found within the people's hearts. How can you know what's going on in somebody else's heart? It's even more shrouded in mystery. It's even more vague and it's even more hidden. And then after that, you say Surah An-Nas, and that is from the evil whispers that are so subtle in your own heart. So Surah Hasad, the hasad of Surah Falaq, when you mention the last ayah that mentions hasad, it's in the evils of other people's hearts. But then even in your own heart, there are whispers that you don't even notice. It's waswasa. Remember last week we talked about how waswasa are so subtle you don't even recognize it. It's so subtle, it only comes to you when you're in a state of ghafla, when you're in a state of heedlessness. So you're not paying attention, and then he gives you very subtle whispers. So from the biggest evil, more vague, more subtle, more ambiguous, until the point that is just so small that you can hardly even notice it. Isn't that amazing? How Allah mentions that you have tawheed. You need to protect it from big evils, and then smaller, and then more hidden, and more subtle, and more tiny, and then the smallest one, just a little whisper in your heart. The way this Quran is put together is really amazing. Like from a linguistic perspective, even non-Muslims, if they read this, they're like, that's pretty clever stuff. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but it's pretty incredible. We need to appreciate our Quran. We need to understand it and appreciate it and think about it, ponder over it, see the way it's put together, because it is truly incredible. And the fact that we're not appreciating it is a crime that we're doing upon ourselves, and it's an even bigger injustice that we're not sharing it with the non-Muslim world, because this is what would bring people and say, that's amazing. But we don't know it ourselves, so how can we share it? That's why we need to take this Quran seriously. I want to see that inshallah this place becomes full, and inshallah people start to come and appreciate, not because of me, but because the Quran is something that deserves appreciation. I know it took a long time. I know I said I'd try to talk fast and get through a lot of information. I hope it wasn't too long. I'll open it up for Q&A. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, how long was that?
45 minutes.
45. I was trying to stay away from 50. 50 was too much last time. So I was like, I was pushing it. Okay, inshallah next week 40. Inshallah next week 40. I'll keep it even tighter. So inshallah Q&A, brothers, sisters, somebody wants to raise their hand. And by the way, I'm going to mention this over and over again every week inshallah, that when you listen to information, it's very easy that that information goes in one ear and out the other. That happens a lot, that you just passively listen to information and it goes in one ear and out the other. The best way to own that information and to make sure that you remember it and that you keep it is that you hear it, you formulate your own thoughts, you make it your own, and then you actually say it out loud. So if you want to remember what was said tonight, if you want to benefit from what was said tonight, I strongly suggest you come up with your own thoughts, your own additions, your own experiences, your own quotes from Quran or Hadith or whatever you want. And then you add to this conversation, inshallah ta'ala. Or ask a question, but I prefer the comments. I enjoy when we create a big discussion. It's a small group. Anybody can just speak out, anybody. Imam, I'm going to put the pressure on you. You're the shaykh, you gotta pull it off. You gotta lead the way, you gotta lead. Bismillah. Okay, I'll give you a minute.
No problem.
Okay, Bismillah.
One of the things that caught my attention was, many of us as converts, we're used to added colloquials, so we hear things that are so connected to what we grew up with. Like when you begin the conversation talking about darkness, it's in rap songs. They say the freaks come out at night.
Yeah.
We've heard so many things. Our parents used to say to us, before the street lights come on.
Yeah.
So all of those things are so consistent with what we were raised upon prior to Islam.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated when the Quran reinforces values that were handed down to us. Some dated back through slavery and, from Muslim family and ancestors.
I mean, the truth is the truth, right? So, I mean, yes, you find that, the truth that a person had before Islam, they find it in Islam. Those same things, the only thing that changes is that Islam gets to add to that and clarifies more things and makes things even more better for them. But all the other good things that they had in Jahiliyyah and prior to Islam, usually you find that, let's say, a person was a Christian. Charity, kindness to parents, this, that. So I can list 1,000 different things that you find in that religion that's good, you find it also in Islam. But then in terms of certain things that are wrong, clarified, improved upon. Anyway, yes, Bismillah.
My theory that dark light is, how many banks get robbed at night?
Sure.
None. Right? You know why?
Why?
You know why banks don't get robbed at night?
Why?
They close. So 90% of the people at nighttime is probably normally sleep.
Yeah.
Logically.
Yeah.
You can dispute it, but most people are asleep at nighttime.
Yeah.
So logically, more crime and sin is going to be committed during the daytime when people are woke. Logically.
I mean, people stay up. I mean, look at. I mean, we live in Vegas, right? I mean, the nightlife is pretty extensive.
We're talking about the whole world. We ain't talking about Vegas. We're talking about the whole world.
Yeah, but I mean, typically, like, when people want to get together and do something bad, like, I mean, the clubs are open during what? Like 8 a.m.? No, they're open. They open at 11. There's a reason, right? Parties and.
Small percentage of people, though. Most working class people, they sin, right?
Yeah.
They sleep.
Yeah, but what we're talking, I guess we could discuss this in terms of the degree of the sin. Like, for example, do they backbite during the daytime? Absolutely. Do they look at things they shouldn't be looking at during the daytime? Absolutely. But then on the weekend, they drink and drive, or something. You know what I mean? Like it's a different level.
Even the best time to tell you to pray. The best time to tell you to pray?
At night.
At night.
Absolutely.
Why though?
Daytime.
Why?
Why? Because everybody sleep.
It's the most sincere. Nobody sees you doing it. So because you're alone with your Lord, you're the most sincere when you pray at night. But anyway, like I said, you could talk to people in the hospital. From what I understand, the consistent opinion is that the ER is most busy at the nighttime because people do the most dumb things at night, the most dangerous things at night. I don't know what else to say. Next, comments, questions? I appreciate the thoughts though. It is very true that most people are asleep.
Just an observation about, you mentioned about the moon, how those 3 nights. I mean, I can see that on like every month at work because I work at retail, and it's just when that full moon is about to come out, we like get ready.
Oh wow!
Because the people, the way they just come, their attitude, the way they talk.
That's incredible.
I see it, so I can believe that, just like that.
Well, like I said, it's not just a thing that's quoted in Quran and Hadith. It's actually something that's scientifically been documented. It's not much of a debate, from what I understand, that people do get actually affected by the full moon. And yes, there is folklore about people turning into werewolves. That's part's nonsense, but it comes from somewhere. Yeah. It comes from a reality. Yes, in the back. What was that? Why do people attack in the night? Probably because people are vulnerable at night. If you're speaking about like people getting robbed, it's easy to rob someone when they're asleep, right? Or it's easy to work under the cover of darkness. During the daytime, you can see everything. Everything's very clear. But if you want to do something bad, often people feel more comfortable doing something bad when there's not much visibility, when you can't see very well. Comments, questions? Yeah. Kifah. Yeah, please.
There's a whole different degrees of sins going in on the day and night. When you see these massacres that happen and people being taken hostage, it happens in the day and it happens in the night. So, I hear what both you guys are saying with the night and day thing, but it happens all 24/7, 365.
Yeah, I don't deny that evil things. I'm not trying to. At no point was I trying to promote the idea that during the daytime everybody's an angel and at nighttime everybody's a devil. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that this surah seems to be alluding to the fact that the type of people who sleep in during the day and stay up late during the night, the night owls, those type of people, they usually engage in negative behavior. And there's a thousand quotes and just wisdom about like if you conquer the first hour of the morning, you've conquered the day. Burika li ummati fi bukuriha. There's a hadith the Prophet says, my ummah is blessed in its early hours. There's a reason why, if you survey some of the most successful people in life, they're the type of people that wake up at like 5 a.m. every morning. They go to bed early, they wake up early. It's not that much. There's a big difference between the type of people that wake early and work hard in the morning and sleep early at night, that type of work ethic, versus the type of people that stay up till 2, 3, 4 a.m., pass out, and then wake up at noon. I don't think there's much debate there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're two different lifestyles, and they yield two different results. And believe me, the people that are staying up all night are not more productive. Productive people wake up early and hustle in the early morning hours. They get the energy from the sunlight. And they're also more positive. Sunlight, when you get to be in the sun more, it actually makes you happier as a person. It cures depression. People that are asleep during the daytime and they're up all night, they increase in depression. They increase in sadness. So, anyway, there's lots of factors. Should we call it close? Should we call it quits? Oh yeah, Bismillah, yeah.
I guess you can look at what life was like in Arabia at night during that time period. Who was out at night, the things that would happen in Arabia at night are completely different than what was happening at night. Streetwalkers, stuff like that, but people were hurting each other in Arabia at night. People were doing horrible things to each other.
Oh, absolutely. If you look at it from a contextual perspective, you might be able to situate it a little bit better. But yeah, personally, I see in no way how it doesn't apply to that. Look, I can just speak for my own personal life, okay? I know when I was a young, stupid kid, I'd stay up all night and I'd be out doing stupid things. And the more I became a mature adult and I tried to get more serious about my life, I'd go to bed earlier and I'd wake up earlier, I'd be more productive. I don't think I'm the only one. I don't know, is this up for debate or is this, I don't know. I don't feel like this is much of a contentious issue. I think most people agree that when you get your life in order, you go to bed early, you wake up real early, and you work hard during the day. And the people that are like, no, I just want to stay up all night, and the parents saying, come on, go to bed. No, I'm just going to watch another movie and just this and that. I just want to hang out with my friends at night. Yeah, that's usually a bad lifestyle. And those kids usually don't do well in school. They get into more fights. They get into more problems. Sorry?
Everybody wanted to see how you handle pressure. You did.
Oh, okay. Just testing me, huh? I don't know. I just feel like this is not much of a contentious issue. Yeah, bismillah.
I don't think that. I think the problem is we're always looking for absolutes.
Yeah. It's not an absolute. Yeah, absolutely. Just like okay.
So, bad things happen at night and in the day, and good things
Like
happen in the day and at night.
Yeah.
There are no absolutes, but maybe there are trends
Absolutely.
and majorities and proclivities.
Proclivities,
So
yeah, it's a good word.
Those things are what matters, not that this is the absolute final truth.
100%. Obviously, like the brother mentioned, like war, right? A bomb goes off. It doesn't matter if it's day or night, right? Obviously, I recognize that. Or people get the bank gets robbed in the daytime, not the nighttime. By the way, some people do go at night and knock the walls in. But whatever. We don't need to get into start debating this stuff. It's not the point. Khair, inshallah, we'll call it quits here. I very much appreciate you guys' participation. I'm so glad that everybody's thinking and everybody's absorbing information. Inshallah, I hope every week it's like that you're not just passively listening, but actively listening, and then coming up with comments at the end. And with that, we close. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Did it look good?